Care too much about your music for it to be good, and that's why you're a mid artist and you won't change. So I'm going to show you how to change. Art comes from artists, so let me show you how to be a good artist. Some symptoms of caring too much about your music is this, right? So you're always starting songs, you rarely finish them, you care too much about the outcome. You obsess over details, and you never feel satisfied, right? Maybe you keep doing takes and takes and takes and takes, and you're never satisfied, right? You always think the next one's going to be the one, and your emotional patterns, your emotional rhythm, your emotional routine whenever you're actually creating art or creating music is exactly the same as it always has been. You keep looking for better tools, better DAWs, better plugins instead of better you, right? And you can feel frustrated because you try so hard, but your art really isn't improving, your depth is low, it doesn't feel right to you, right? So technically you're obsessed and you make decent music, but it just feels empty, man. It just feels like it's bad music. Maybe you're constantly comparing your output to others, right, and feeling behind, whether somebody's younger than you, or maybe like your friend makes music too and you think theirs is better. And then like you have moments of inspiration, right, but it's not reliable. You can't reliably produce high flow state works, high impact works, emotionally moving works. Good art is art that cultivates emotion, so if you can't continue to have inspiration from emotional states, then you can't reliably create art. These are symptoms of an artist who is not at their full potential. So you try to manufacture good songs, but you're not yet a good artist, because art is a reflection of you. That's why it's art. Everybody creates different art. Your internal state reflects outwards and it creates art. So it's internal to external. And that's why flow state matters, because you need to create uninterrupted, allowing this to happen, right? But you're trying to control this transmutation from inner to outer, and that's why you are unfulfilled in creating art. So you want powerful, emotionally impactful music that's unique, has depth, conviction, right? It's one of those, some of that art that just draws you in. You know, you have those favorite artists that you just keep coming back to. They draw you in, maybe a favorite song, but you haven't yet become an artist capable of being that, because you have to be it before you can see it. So you have to build this within. You have to build self-trust. You have to be emotionally available to express. You need to have creative identity and discipline with your energy, right? A stillness has to be there, because some people fill up their music too much, and you need to give it space to breathe. So you need to have stillness within to have stillness in your music, right? It needs to be honest. That's why you cultivate emotion, because it's honest, right? And you need to have a tolerance for imperfection, and all of these things. So all of these things you need. This is the stuff you want, but this is what you need to create it, right? So instead of chasing them, become someone who generates them from within, because art is just the mirror of your internal state. If you have a better process, a better state, and better trust, you're going to make better music. So if this is a reflection of your internal state, your art is not going to be fulfilling. So if you feel rushed, maybe you're distracted, maybe you're always with friends in the studio, maybe you never take alone time to write or practice guitar or whatever you do, you care too much, right? It's just kind of all over the place. It's random. It doesn't feel true. You're trying to draw at ideas. You're trying to find one out of the hat, thinking of ideas instead of having ideas, right? Instead of being an idea, right? You feel performative. You're trying to be somebody on the mic that you're not, right? And then you're just inconsistent. One day you're in, one day you're out. You need to have the identity locked in. So your output's going to reflect this in your art. So a better process, better energy, better internal state will equal better types of music. So this is more of what that looks like. Having some sort of intention, whether that's an intention to express yourself, a habitual emotional availability, whatever it is, not forcing ideas, so going with the flow, taking what's within you and expressing it outwards, not trying to think of something quote-unquote fire or cool, right? Maybe separating some of your processes into a creative state and then a logical state, or finding whatever works for you. Making rituals, right? So making routines emotionally to create music, a ritual that'll make expressing your honest state easier. And then of course, like maybe being alone in the studio, not having your friends, and reducing mental noise so you can have some clarity to just let yourself be. Your internal state affects literally everything in your music. It's mainly to do with these two things, your conviction and your intuition. Your intuition will allow you to flow and create universally aligned art, right? So when you express with pure conviction and you just follow your intuition in flow states and you're just expressing that, you're not thinking about it, that's going to be the universal expression of what state you're in, right? And that's why whenever you try to create art but you're not honest, right? When you're not honest, you're in a worse state. It's harder to flow because you're trying to control the transmutation. So if you allow it to flow, you'll just be creating rhythmically, universally aligned art, right? And that's why you'll find incredible little pockets that you'll sit in when you just have conviction and you follow your intuition. So instead of being performative and being numbed out, overstimulated, trying too hard, right? Just let go and know that your intuition is already working in your favor. Because you don't have to be anybody else. You just have to express who you are now, right? So if you feel fake, express how you feel that you feel fake, right? And just follow your your intuition, right? Just trust yourself. Because at the end of the day, you're creating art for yourself, not for anybody else. So you need to build the artist, not just the art, man. You're not trying to get one-off songs. You're trying to be someone who creates emotionally fulfilling work. So take a second to read this if you want, but you need to cultivate an internal state, ask yourself questions, and consciously change who you're being, right? So there's 6 main pillars that I've kind of thought of that come to creating art. So it's your state of being, your relationship to imperfection, your threshold to express honestly, your process, the trust you have in yourself, and then your identity, right? So your state of being is basically your feelings. Your identity is who you believe to be. Your self-trust is how much you trust your own judgment. Your process is the actual action in creating art. So going to the studio, smoking marijuana, drinking, being with friends, being alone. Your threshold for honesty, right? So that's kind of with how you feel, but you need to have a high threshold to express yourself honestly so you can enter flow state. And then your relationship to imperfection. This one's huge. This one's huge. You need to have a good relationship to imperfection. You need to be okay with creating imperfect music that doesn't quote-unquote please you. You need to focus on your internal state, not your external state when you're creating art. And all you need to do is be truthful. Because sometimes truth is imperfect in the way you express it. But as long as it's truth, it'll be fulfilling, trust me. So you need to be allowed to create quote-unquote imperfect music to create perfect, truthful art. Imagine these 2 artists. Artist A, he writes every day, does the physical world well, he watches tutorials, he restarts when he doesn't think they're good, he judges the lines, he wants every track to sound great, be professional, he wants it to be this thing, and he never lets himself just truly express how he feels or who he is. Then artist B is a simple process. He enters sessions with intent, he knows who he is, he knows what he wants to do, he just wants to create art and flow on the mic and have fun and enjoy himself and express how he feels. He maybe edits it at a later session, and he deepens as a person as he creates deeper, better art. He writes from true feeling and is honest, right? So which one of these artists do you want to be? Ask yourself that. Do you want to be artist A or do you want to be artist B? Or maybe a mix of them. Or maybe a mix of them is most likely where you're at in the beginning. So lean more towards artist B. That'll help you be more fulfilled. So tonight, do something. These are just ideas, but do something that you think of. Trust yourself. Either create for 20 minutes without editing, freestyling for 20 minutes, sitting in silence for 3 minutes and then creating, writing from real emotion instead of trying to think of an idea, just do. Finish one imperfect piece, right? So finish something without restarting it ever. Remove a distraction, do something solo if you're typically with friends, or maybe throw your phone in a different room. Freestyle, that's what I recommend. Record one take, don't over control it. You can always do another take. Or just freestyling guitar, just messing around until you find something that you like, and then just freestyling from that and following your intuition, just the first thought that comes up, right? And maybe ask yourself some of those questions from earlier, right? So ask yourself, what are you protecting? Why are you faking? You're faking to protect something. So try to find what you're protecting and then express that. I'm a creative consultant and I help artists create better, more fulfilling art. Subscribe if you want, or don't. I'll be posting more videos, so follow.